Imagine standing here with me, inside what was meant to be Europe's most modern airport. Sunlight streams through vast windows, glinting off immaculate marble floors. You can almost hear the phantom echoes of rolling suitcases and boarding announcements. But the only sound is the hum of the building's life support. This is Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, once a symbol of German efficiency, now a monument to spectacular failure. The check-in desks are pristine, their screens dark. The baggage carousels have never completed a full rotation with a passenger's luggage. This terminal was operational for just 55 days. In that brief window, it went from national treasure to national embarrassment. Now, it's a ghost terminal, a silent testament to ambition, meeting a very hard, very expensive reality. Every detail, from designer seating to unused passport control booths, speaks of a future that never arrived. It's like walking through a film set for a dystopian movie, where humanity has vanished but left its grandest structures behind. The story of how this happened is not just about technical faults. It's about pride, politics, and the catastrophic danger of ignoring the truth. We're walking through a multi-billion euro ghost town. The journey from its grand opening to its sudden closure is a tale of warnings unheeded, and a ticking clock no one heard until it was too late. Let's go back to the beginning to understand how it all went so wrong. The story begins in the early 2000s. Berlin, newly reunified, was served by 3 aging airports, relics of the Cold War, cramped and inefficient. Then came the news. Germany would host the 2006 FIFA World Cup. Suddenly, a new airport became a matter of national pride. The world was coming, and Berlin needed to present its best face. The plan closed the 3 old airports and consolidate all of Berlin's air traffic into one magnificent hub. Berlin-Brandenburg Willy Brandt Airport, or BER. It would be sleek, efficient, and handle tens of millions of passengers a year. The government sold a powerful dream, a world-class facility to rival Heathrow or Charles de Gaulle, creating thousands of jobs and cementing Berlin's status as a top European destination. The budget, €2 billion, a staggering sum, but necessary for such ambition. The public was captivated by the renderings and promises of seamless travel. But behind the glossy brochures, a difficult reality was taking shape. Building a project of this scale on such a tight timeline was a monumental challenge. The World Cup deadline was incredibly tight. Corners would have to be cut. The desire to create a showpiece led planners down a path of unproven technology and risky designs. The seeds of disaster were sown in the very foundation of this grand, optimistic dream. The ambition was there, but the execution, as we would soon see, was another matter entirely. At the heart of the airport's design was a feature that would become its fatal flaw: the fire safety and smoke extraction system. Traditional airports use massive smoke ducts and vents, ugly but effective. BER's architects wanted a soaring, uninterrupted ceiling, so they needed a radical new way to handle a fire. Their solution: the smoke eater. Instead of venting smoke upwards, the system would suck it down through grates in the floor, using a complex network of fans. In theory, it was brilliant. A technological centerpiece, controlled by software coordinating thousands of sensors and vents. But this system had never been implemented on such a scale before. It was largely theoretical. The software was bewilderingly complex, and the budget ballooned. Project leaders remained confident, seeing the system as their crowning achievement. This unwavering faith in technology, prioritizing aesthetics over proven safety, was a catastrophic mistake. The entire safety of the airport rested on this unproven system, a huge gamble. As construction progressed, whispers of problems began to circulate. The system was too complex, the software buggy, the components unreliable. Concerns were brushed aside. Too much political and financial capital had been invested. To admit a fundamental design flaw now was unthinkable. The project had too much momentum to stop. The stage was set for disaster. The grand opening was set. Airlines sold tickets, shops stocked shelves, staff were hired. The initial buzz was electric. Berlin was finally getting the airport it deserved. But behind the scenes, the countdown to disaster had begun. Small glitches appeared, flickering lights, jammed doors, baggage system failures. These were dismissed as teething problems, but for engineers in the control center, a more alarming picture was emerging. The fire safety system was throwing up constant error messages. Sensors failed. Software crashed. These weren't minor issues. They were signs of deep, systemic instability. One engineer, Klaus Müller, became increasingly vocal. He knew the smoke extraction system was a sham. It had never passed a full simulation. In tests, the fans failed. The software got confused. Müller wrote report after report warning his superiors the airport was not safe. His warnings were ignored, even suppressed. He was told he was being alarmist. The political and commercial pressure to keep the airport open was immense. Admitting failure just weeks after opening would be a humiliation. Management chose to gamble, implementing manual overrides and extra firewatch staff, hoping to manage the risks. They were, in effect, crossing their fingers and hoping a fire wouldn't break out. On the 55th day, a small electrical fire started in a fast food kitchen. In a properly functioning airport, this would have been minor, but at BER, it triggered catastrophe. The fire alarms shrieked, but the smoke extraction system failed completely. Some fans didn't turn on, others worked in reverse, pushing smoke back into the terminal. Within minutes, thick smoke filled the hall, creating panic and zero visibility. The control software crashed. The airport was plunged into darkness and chaos. Passengers stumbled blindly with no clear path to an exit. It was the exact scenario Klaus Müller had warned about. Manual overrides were useless. Fire crews struggled to navigate the smoke-filled building. Miraculously, nobody was killed, but dozens were injured. The evacuation was a shambles. The dream of a perfectly engineered airport had become a nightmare. The failure was absolute. The incident was broadcast live around the world. Within hours, the German Aviation Authority closed Berlin-Brandenburg Airport indefinitely. The closure was not just a technical or political story, it was a human tragedy. Overnight, thousands lost their jobs. Cleaners, baggage handlers, security guards, baristas, shop assistants. Many had left other jobs, believing in the promise of a secure future. The ripple effect on local businesses and families was devastating. Flights were rerouted to old, cramped airports, creating chaos for airlines and passengers. Berlin's reputation as a travel hub was left in tatters. The grand vision had resulted in a situation worse than the one it was meant to solve. Klaus Müller, the whistleblower, was proven right, but became a scapegoat, his career ruined. The real cost was measured in lost jobs, ruined careers, and broken trust. The failure of BER had a real, painful impact on thousands of ordinary people. In the aftermath, the blame game began. Politicians distanced themselves, executives resigned, and investigations revealed a toxic culture of mismanagement and political interference. The project had been rushed, driven by the unrealistic World Cup deadline. The board was packed with politicians lacking technical expertise, swayed by impressive presentations and architectural ambition. They signed off on the radical fire safety system without understanding the risks. The technical failures were at the core, but the construction was also plagued by poor workmanship and incompatible systems. The final report was damning. The airport was a building of monstrous complexity with fundamental planning deficiencies. The failure was systemic, a cascade of failures at every level, political, managerial, and technical. It was a story of hubris and a dangerous willingness to ignore expert warnings. The airport didn't just fail because of a faulty fire system, it failed because the entire system of checks and balances had collapsed. The 55-day flameout of Berlin-Brandenburg Airport became a global case study in how not to manage a mega project. The lessons were harsh, but vital. Proven, reliable systems are always superior to risky, unproven innovations. After BER, airport designers shifted back to safety-first principles. Regulators tightened rules, and certifying new safety technologies became more rigorous. The failure of the smoke extraction system led to renewed appreciation for simple, effective overhead smoke ducts. The disaster highlighted the importance of independent oversight and protecting whistleblowers. The legacy of BER is written in today's building codes and safety regulations. Every new airport since has been shaped by its failure. The lesson ambition has limits, and safety is non-negotiable. Here's the final, most infuriating twist. The failure of the downward smoke extraction system should not have been a surprise. Years earlier, a similar system failed spectacularly during tests at Singapore's Changi Airport. The Singaporean authorities ripped it out and replaced it with a conventional system before opening. Reports of the failure circulated in the engineering world, but somehow never reached or were ignored by Berlin's decision-makers. Klaus Müller later claimed he tried to raise the Singapore failure, but was told the German version was superior. The disaster was not just foreseeable, it was avoidable. A clear precedent existed, but in a fog of pride and ambition, the warning was dismissed. They were so convinced of their own genius, they refused to believe they could fail where others had. And so they built a magnificent, doomed airport, a monument to the catastrophic price of not listening.